So this is our 8th cost of living video from around the world. It's our 6th in Asia. The other 2 were from Europe. And surprisingly from this one, from Canggu and Bali, it is our most expensive month that we've ever tracked anywhere, even compared to those 2 European ones as well. So as you would have picked up by now, this video is all about our cost of living from Canggu and Bali. One of our favorite places. It's also a place that has a little bit of a misconception for being incredibly cheap. So you might find it quite interesting when we go through some of these numbers to see, because I really do think that there are a lot cheaper places around the world that you could spend time in. And as I mentioned in the intro there, the month that we tracked in Canggu was more expensive than Croatia and Poland, which might be surprising. So yeah, so this is our 6th one from Asia. We have done one other cost of living from Canggu, from Bali again. That was around one person living in like a guest house, because I spent a bit of time there by myself. We also have 2 from Thailand, 1 from the Philippines, and 1 from Vietnam. So I'll leave a playlist below. Any of the stuff that I talk about in this video, which is often a few different references, will all be in the description below, so go ahead and check those out. But just to quickly backtrack, if you're new here, my name is Dane, and my partner Stacey. We run this channel, Danger and Stacey. We travel full time. We create content, day in the life type vlogs, cost of living, stuff like this, helpful pieces of information for people that want to be traveling, and just fun experiences in traveling and all sorts of stuff in between. So we've just spent 1 month in Canggu. For our regular subscribers, you might be wondering why this video is inserting right here. It's not the end of our time in Bali. It's just our end of time in Canggu, which we didn't really film too much because we were catching up on so much stuff from our European trip. We've got some incredible stuff coming from the Nusa Islands, Nusa Penida, Nusa Lembongan, and Nusa Cheningan. Beautiful places. So the next few videos the next few weeks of videos that you'll see will be from there. So this video is about the cost of living for 2 people in Canggu. And we did it differently this time. We shared, we didn't buy a villa, we shared a villa for a month with some friends so we could split costs down the middle and not have to live in a guest house. Guest houses can be really cheap, but they're lacking a lot of features that you otherwise have to try and find that middle ground. So these are the 9 categories that we have tracked. And there's 3 additionals at the end, including travel insurance, which we always like to mention, but we now have found a new company that has quickly become our favorite, and we highly recommend that you check them out. I'll talk more about that later on, but for now let's just jump straight into accommodation. So you can very easily get a guest house for a single person or for a couple for about $380 per month in Bali, in Canggu. So it can be cheap. But the reality is the rooms are very small, they're not functional, you can't really work from them, you don't really want to spend any time there, and the internet is generally pretty average. So we decided to do things a little differently this time, and we got a villa that was 30 million for the month. So I don't know what that is in US dollars, I just know our portion, well, I can add it and double it up. It's about 2,000 US dollars for the month. 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, big lounge, private swimming pool, and a kitchen. So the kitchen is quite a big game changer, because it means that you end up eating out less if you've got the option to do groceries and cook yourself. So 1,018 US dollars is what our portion as a couple was towards our villa, and that included all of the utilities and the the cleaning and all of that sort of stuff that went with it as well. For groceries, we spent $282. We did do a decent amount of cooking at home, but then also because we were hanging out with friends quite a bit this time, we did also go out quite a lot as well, or order Gojek and have food delivered at our villa, because that's where we were comfortable with music playing and everything. It really depends on food, and this is one of the big contrasting elements as well, again, which is if you go to a local warung and you just eat Indonesian food, you're looking at $1 for a plate of noodles or rice and chicken or something. If you go to a cafe, you're looking at $3 or $4. So it depends what you eat. So can Canggu be cheap? 100%. Is it cheap for most people? Not as much as you think, because you're paying almost Australasian prices to go to cafes more often than not, because they're the Instagrammy spots. So you do have to be really, really careful about how it plays out. So we've got a video on supermarket prices from our last trip in Canggu, which I'll link below. That just shows like breads and milks and bottled water and toiletries and cereals and all the sorts of stuff that you might be interested in. And this $282 doesn't include alcohol. I generally track that separately, but again, because we were hanging out with friends, we drank quite a lot this month. So that would have been another $150 worth of alcohol that I tracked separately that's not on that. Dining out was our third largest cost at $268. I think this is the thing that trips people up a lot. They might get a cheap guest house, they get cheap everything else, and then you go out and you consistently spend $10 per meal out per day, $30 gone, go out and have a few nights out drinking, and then all of a sudden you're spending an average of $30 a day, or maybe even more with parties and everything. It starts to add up quite a bit faster than what people realize. So $268, not huge, but also for the value that we got and the meals and everything that we had, there's no complaints about that cost whatsoever. The quality and the variety of food and Western and local options in Bali is absolutely incredible. Drinking water. You cannot drink the tap water as you cannot in most of Asia or Southeast Asia. So we were buying the large water bottles, the 19 liters. So I've had to make a little knife slit into the top there. And then there's like a point here. And this is the tricky bit. Oh, it's not breaking. It's gonna break. Oh! There. I feel like a lot of the minerals and stuff are actually stripped out of it because it's not as hydrating, if that's a thing. But they were super cheap and just helpful to have around, obviously, to be drinking. So they're only like 10 to 20,000 rupiah per time. So we spent $10 for the whole month on drinking water. Transport costs will vary depending on what your needs are. For us, we go everywhere on a scooter, so that was mostly scooter cost, but that's the that's the rupiah cost. $58 and 95% of that was on the scooter rental. So the remaining money was basically for Stacey whenever she went out on a Gojek. If she went out with a friend or was going out by herself to do something, whatever, she'd just order a Gojek, jump on the back of a motorbike. It costs like 20 or 30 cents basically to drive across town, but you take a few of those over time, that can add up a little bit. Gas costs have to come into it because we were renting the scooter, as I mentioned, so that was $5 for the whole month, which is actually crazy when even I look at that. I thought it would be more. That's because it's only 8 to 10,000 rupiah when you just get like a bottle, like a vodka bottle on the side of the road for 1 liter. It is a little bit cheaper if you actually go to a gas station, but there's not a huge amount of them around, so it's just sort of you grab one quite easily as you go. But $5 on top of what was about $50 for the scooter, $55 for the month to have transport sorted is just so efficient and so worth it. Phone plans is something we mentioned in our settling in Canggu video, and a few people were like, shit, that is good. There are some crazy valuable plans that you can get. We were with a company called Telecom, and we were paying $12 per person, and that was for 40 to 50 gigabytes. So that is what we often use to hotspot to our laptops for any of the work and stuff that we needed to do. I was uploading vlogs on the 4G data, and the speeds that you get from that were on average probably about 5 to 10, so fairly decent, enough that you can make video calls anyway. Gym memberships are pretty polarizing. There are some fancy places that we haven't really checked out too much. In our last videos, our last series from Canggu, we showed Victory Fitnesses where we were training, and that is it's $10 a month. So it is crazy cheap. It is also quite average and very sweaty and very busy, but it is relatively functional, and it's all that you need to get some fitness done, like to get in and work out basically. Miscellaneous is the final category with $37. It's a little bit higher than normal, so I tried to keep track as the month went on as to what some of those things were. Laundry was a big part of that after a huge trek through Europe, like moving quite quickly at the end. There was some medicine and stuff that we had to pick up, some bug sprays, just random little bits and pieces like that. So in total, that all comes to $1,725. Two people to live what I would probably say is probably one of our most baller months that we've had in quite some time in terms of the dining out, our own pool, the drinking that we did, the fun that we had was absolutely maximized, and the cost matches that. But as I mentioned, we spent less living in Zagreb in Croatia and in Krakow in Poland, two of our most favorite places in Europe that are definitely highly underrated. So I'll let you check those links in the description below to see what you think about them. Quite excited to share this because these guys definitely deserve a little bit of recognition. There's a new company, well, newish. I've heard about them for quite some time, but only very recently started digging properly for travel insurance, and they're called Safety Wing. So these guys were a team that used to be in corporate roles and noticed that there was a gap in the market for people that travel longer, they're digital nomads or are open-ended and that aren't quite so regimented with what their travel plans are. And a lot of insurance companies can be a little bit strict about that. And they basically filled the gap and started working with one of the largest insurance companies in the world to back them. Not only is their T's and C's very easy to understand, which is quite nice. You don't have to question, wait, so is that an if, is it yes, or is that a no? Like, am I covered? It can be quite complicated when you get into that jargon. The other incredible selling points, they are super cheap. We're talking $37 per month. There's a little bit more if you plan to travel in the US. And the big thing is that they're a monthly payment system. So unlike other insurance companies where we drop like maybe $1,000 up front before we travel for a year, and we don't even know if we're going to go for a year, but we have to make the call then. $37 per month, and it runs like a subscription service, like a Netflix or what else, like a Spotify type thing. So you start your plan and you just let it basically run. You can pause it, you can stop it, and it just comes off monthly. You'll never overspend and you'll never underspend. I've got a huge list of all this other stuff. I've probably talked enough about them. But I think they deserve the credit. So check out the link in the description. And also, if you go via our link, that does help us. We find something that we think is valuable, that we personally use, we recommend to you. If you go via our link, we win as well by getting a very small kickback towards our next insurance that we buy for our next trip to create more videos, and so the cycle continues. But definitely check them out anyway. The second cost is visas. So most people, maybe I'm guessing a little bit there, I think most countries get a free visa on arrival in Indonesia for 30 days. We planned on staying longer. In fact, the last video that you watched would have been, or maybe you didn't see it yet, we have a visa extension video that we did. So we had to pay for a visa when we arrived that was extendable, which also then cost money. And all up, that cost about $50 per person to extend. And the third thing is a VPN. Internet security is huge. Definitely be smart about that, especially if you're doing banking or managing somebody else's businesses or anything that you want to keep private online. It's just a risky place. And the other thing is, if you're going to Indonesia, is that Netflix is blocked anyway. So we've got a recommendation for a VPN in the link below so that you can be safe as well as watch Netflix, which is pretty important to kill some time. And that wraps up our costs and recommendations. So hopefully that has been helpful. I always blab too long at the end of this. In fact, I always blab too much throughout the whole videos. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to add as much detail, make it personable, add our experience, add some recommendations, some thoughts and everything into it. One thing that is playing on my mind, and I feel like a lot of people would be interested in, is a comparison between all of those Asian countries that I mentioned, Southeast Asian countries that I mentioned, comparison between what we spent on each of those 9 elements in each of them. If you're interested in seeing that, comment below. If there's enough comments, then I will put the time into making sure that I film it. But for now, I'm just going to leave it right there. Ask any questions below in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you again also, in the comments. Bye.